What's good, everybody? So my latest track, Dreams, is out, and today I wanted to do something a little different and kind of lift the hood and show you the process of how I made the track. So let's get into it. So I found these really nice piano chords in a loop pack that I had. Super nice, love the chords, but I wanted to change the timing a bit. So here I'm just sort of chopping it up and rearranging a bit. Next, just adding a bit of delay. Subtle, very subtle. And next, a little bit of reverb. The loop pack that I found, it had chords, like the audio of the chords, but it also had the MIDI of the chords. So here what I'm doing is I'm basically the same way I rearrange the audio sample is I'm going to rearrange the chords in the same manner. And then I'm going to try to make a melody using these same chords. And how am I going to do that? Well, stay tuned. You'll find out. So just moving the chords around, like I said. And I'm going to select all and hit legato, so that all of the chords join up. So next I'm gonna pop the Omnisphere on those chords. Spectrasonic's Omnisphere, amazing, amazing plugin. You will never run out of sounds if you have Omnisphere. So one of my favorite patches is Ambient Space Piano. I'm just gonna turn on the arpeggiator. This is how I'm going to come up with a melody using these chords. Super nice, sounds great, but I want to hear something a little different, so here I'm going to find a different sequence called White Lines. To me that's fire, but it's too fast, so I slowed it down from 1/8 to 1/4. And here I'm just messing around with the different patterns of this sequence so that I can make a little variation in the melody. And here we're going to be finding some drums. So just auditioning through some drum breaks that I have. That one's a winner. To me, that just sounds like it's going to go so well with those chords. I'm just going to turn that down a little bit. So next, I'm going to nail down this melody using the arpeggiator. So there's two patterns that I like here. There's the as played, and there's the down up pattern, basically. So what I'm doing here is, because there's no way to automate on Omnisphere between those two different patterns of the arpeggiator, I'm going to make two instances of Omnisphere here. As you can see, I've already done that. And basically just go half and half with this MIDI between one instance and the other instance. So you're going to get the best of both worlds, basically. You're going to get both patterns. And this is basically what I want, but I just want them reversed. So I got to take that one, put it there, take that one, put it there. That's how I made a melody, just using the MIDI chords. Arpeggiators are super powerful. You could do this with most synths. So here I'm bringing in a key bass. This plugin is free. This is one of the best sounding synth basses I've ever heard. And this plugin is free. So if you don't know about Keybase, go get it right now because it's totally free. This is one of the best basses I've ever heard. Let's get back to it. So just making a blank MIDI sequence there. And what I'm doing here, freeze frame. So in a low register, the human ear is not really good at hearing the notes in a sub bass register. So what I like to do is write the notes in a higher register. So often what I'll do is I'll drop in a piano right underneath my bass line, my key bass there, and I'll write the notes in the piano just to make sure I have the notes right. And then once I've got that nailed down, I just take that MIDI and drop it onto the key bass. So you'll see that happen here. Just finding that root note. Turns out it's a B. That's it. So we got our bass line, just drop those notes onto the key bass, and there it is. Got a nice fat sub bass. Just thought the whole beat would flow a lot better at a higher tempo, so I raised the tempo there real quick from 158 to 165. Next, we're bringing in a flute. So I have a whole bank of just flute samples, horn samples that I've collected over the years. And basically I'm just looking for the right one right now. And so you'll hear me just auditioning through a bunch of flutes till I find the right one. I'm liking the way that one sounds, but unfortunately it's in a different key. It's in G minor, so I gotta pitch it up so that it's in B. Ableton's default warp mode is on beats, which works really well for drums and rhythmic elements. But if you got sort of extended notes or anything sort of melodic, the beats warp mode does not work as well. It adds a lot of weird artifacts. So this is a really good hack if you don't know it already, but if you're trying to chop up or manipulate any kind of melodic sample, change that warp mode to complex. It's going to sound a lot cleaner, a lot smoother, a lot more musical in general. Loving how that sounds. It's just the timing of it's a little bit off, so I'm already sort of hearing something here where I want to change the notes and change them around. So now we commence the chopping. This is how I do a lot, like with horns, horn samples, flute samples. I end up chopping it up and moving things around a lot just till it's what I'm hearing in my head, basically. Now I'm just gonna work on that second part of it here. Again, moving things around. Bringing that back. And it's almost there. But there's just certain parts I want to hear that again, like I want to have that part loop again, so I'm just going to chop that and basically duplicate it. like 90% of the way there, but I ended up taking up some of the notes from the second part and bringing it back to the first part, just for a little bit tighter of a timing, or sort of just more to match what I was hearing in my head. And here's the completed flute here. A lot of the time when you're doing a lot of chopping, you can hear those chops and it can sound a little too jittery, not as smooth as the original sample. So bringing in a little reverb just to smooth out those chops also just gives a nice atmosphere to the flute. So here I'm just arranging, making an intro. Doubling up that arpeggiator there. And here I like to add a little variation in the drums during the hook sometimes, so I'm just gonna add a little ride cymbal here. Turn it down a little bit. Now here I'm just sort of chopping the piano, making a little bit of variation in the chord pattern. More arranging. And I'm going to bring in a cymbal here just to sort of emphasize the beginning of the phrase, which is sort of a nice way to keep things fresh in a way. Again, a little salt and pepper on there, a little delay, a little reverb. Effects there, a little T-Rex brick wall limiter, a little saturation from the Plugin Alliance black box. And just turning down the mix, that I'm not clipping it. Now, here what I'm doing is I'm going to create a little pre-chorus. I don't really know this is going to be a pre-chorus yet, but I'm going to pitch down this flute, and this is sort of what becomes the pre-chorus, which is sort of like the lead-in into the second chorus. So just pitch that down a whole octave or 12 semitones. And just switching up the pattern a little bit. More arranging, adding the cymbals, doubled up that ride loop on the hook, more cymbals. Now, I really like to just add a vocal noise or just some kind of weird noise to my beats. I do this in pretty much every beat, whether it's like nature noises or a yell, just some kind of weird bloopy type effect, whatever it may be. These types of sounds, just to me, they add so much to the beat. So here I'm just sort of cycling through noises that I've collected over the years. You'll see which one I end up choosing. What I'm doing here is I'm layering my own kick underneath the drum break. It just gives you a lot more frequency control. Like if you're just using the drum break, you got your kicks, you got your snares, you got your hats all on one track. If you add your own kicks, you add your own snares, sometimes I even add my own hats to the drum break, and then you can just kind of bandpass that drum break. To me, it just makes the whole process a lot more workable if you just layer in your own drum noises. So here I'm going to be adding a kick underneath basically every kick that's in that drum break. I don't know if you heard there, but you can hear a little bit of flamming because a lot of these, this is like a live drum break. So a lot of these hits, a lot of these kicks, a lot of these snares aren't right on the grid. So when that's happening, I like to zoom right in on that drum break and make sure that each individual drum hit that I'm layering actually connects right with where it is in the drum break. And this just makes the whole sound a lot cleaner, prevents flamming, prevents phasing issues, that kind of thing. It can be pretty time consuming, but to me, it's worth it in the overall end product. Phasing gone, just sounds super clean, super punchy. Just adding some mastering effects. And here I'm just adding a little break in the drums right before. So this is at the end of the pre-chorus where that slowed down flute is. And just adding a delay on that one little hit. Band passing the drums just to make it, just to give it a little bit more variation right before the second hook kicks in. Got my one knob there, which is basically a low pass filter, and then using the EQ8 just to complete that band passing combination with the one knob. That's what I like to call a telephone effect on those drums, and that just creates a nice little build up to the second chorus there. You're just more arranging, mixing, tweaking. I wanted to keep this video short, so I skipped a lot of it, but if you want me to go more in detail in my next video, I will do that, I promise. So here I'm adding a tape stop effect using the looperator. This is just at the end of the intro before the main beat kicks in. What I'm going to do is add a little tape stop, just right, not there, right there is where I want that tape stop to go. So here I'm just making sure that sounds how I want it. And just adding a little sauce to the flute. This is a great plugin. It's called the Hog Phaser by Safari Pedals. Beautiful phasing effects. And so just cycling through the presets here, I found this one called the Leslie Send. It's a little much, so I'm just going to bring down the blend a little bit. Subtle, but it's, to me, it adds a lot. And again, just going back to layering your own drum noises underneath the drum break, I'm just going to add a little snare in there. Just auditioning it. Auditioning it on time just to make sure it blends the way I want it to. I think this is going to be a really nice complement to that snare that's already in that drum break. So again, same process I went through with the kick, but this time I'm sort of shortening that sample because the tail was a little too long. And it just adds a nice little crunch. Copying it over, but getting mad detail just to make sure it actually hits at the same time as all those other snares. Boom, 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 copy it over. And, I tucked it quite a bit in the mix. Now here, we're almost at the end of the track here, and there's a nice tail that I'm hearing on these Omnisphere arpeggiators. And I got the idea to basically use that at the end of the track. So basically what I did there was I froze and flattened these Omnisphere tracks because they were just in MIDI. So in order to be able to manipulate the audio the way I wanted it to, I converted it from MIDI to audio. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of that reverb tail and just stick it right at the end there. And next, after that, I'm going to have to automate the reverb in order to make it sort of wash out. I'm just going to up the size of the reverb and up the decay of the reverb just to make a nice sort of washing out effect right at the end of the track. And that's basically it. This is the completed track. Now, if you hear this song, if you check me out on Spotify and look up this song, you'll notice that later on there's a trumpet sample that I added later on, and this is my sort of first time doing this, so I forgot to screen record when I added that trumpet. So if you guys really want me to, just drop a little comment and let me know, and I'll show you the process by how I brought in that trumpet, because that was quite a bit of chopping and manipulating as well. I hope you guys found it interesting, getting a little glimpse into how I made the track. And check me out, it's Jet Fuel J Dreams. I'm on all the streaming services. And yeah, drop a comment, let me know what you guys thought of this video.